The footsteps grew louder, echoing sharply down the crooked corridor as the air between them shifted. Lan Wangji stayed in front of Wei Ying, composed but alert, Bicken still warm in his grip. The strain of the confrontation had faded from his breathing, but not from his awareness. His focus remained entirely on the man behind him. Wei Ying touched Lan Wangji's sleeve gently, as if testing whether he was truly there, truly solid, truly someone who would stand between him and danger without a second thought. The gesture was light, barely a brush of fingers, but Lan Wangji felt it like a pull straight to the center of his chest. "Lanzhen," Wei Ying whispered, his voice barely disturbing the charged air. "If they see us together like this, they'll misunderstand." Lan Wangji didn't turn. His reply was immediate, low, and resolute. "Let them." The simplicity of the words made Wei Ying's heart skip. 13 years and still Lan Wangji spoke as if every vow was carved into stone, every promise an unbreakable oath. He felt a warmth spread through him, a feeling he hadn't realized he'd been missing so desperately. Lan Wangji shifted closer, a subtle movement, just enough to further conceal Wei Ying's face from the view of anyone approaching. The white of his robes became a solid wall, a fortress built just for him. And then they were upon them. The Mo family stumbled into the hallway in a frantic cluster, lanterns trembling in their unsteady hands. Their eyes were wide and wild, their breaths coming in ragged, uneven gasps. Fear clung to them like a thick, chilling mist. Whatever they had heard, whatever they had imagined in the dark corners of the estate, it had shaken them to their core. "Mo Zhuanyu." Mo Ziyuan's voice snapped through the tension, sharp and accusatory. He pointed a shaking finger toward the shadows where Wei Ying stood partially hidden. "What did you do this time? What did you summon?" Wei Ying couldn't help it. He lifted a brow, a flicker of amusement dancing in his eyes despite the gravity of the moment. "Summon? Me?" He mouthed silently, a ghost of his old, mischievous self. He felt a subtle pressure against his arm. Lan Wangji's hand had moved, a silent warning not to provoke them, not to add fuel to their hysteria. Wei Ying blinked, surprised by the quiet touch. He was used to being stopped, reprimanded, scolded, even physically restrained. But this was different. It wasn't restrictive. It was protective. It was a gentle reminder that he was no longer alone in facing the world's accusations. Mo Ziyuan, emboldened by his own shouting, puffed up his chest with a flimsy show of courage. "We heard screaming, something exploded, the walls shook. It has to be his fault. It's always his fault." Lan Wangji's gaze, which had been watchful, now sharpened with an icy edge. His voice cut through Mo Ziyuan's tirade, calm but unyielding. There was no explosion. The sudden authority in his tone made Mo Ziyuan flinch back as if he'd been physically struck. The young master's bluster faltered. What business do you have here? This is our home. You can't just wander around like you own the place." "We are investigating a disturbance," Lan Wangji replied, his voice as steady as a mountain. "It is dangerous." "You should not be here." The words were spoken softly, almost gently, but they carried the undeniable weight of command. It was the kind of voice that demanded obedience without ever raising its volume. For a moment, even the lantern flames seemed to bow to his will, flickering lower in the sudden stillness. Wei Ying watched from behind his human shield as the Mo family hesitated, their bravado evaporating. They exchanged nervous, uncertain glances, their fear of the unknown clashing with their resentment of the two outsiders. Lan Wangji's presence had always been like this, silent, imposing, and effortlessly grounding. It was a quality that once annoyed Wei Ying to no end, a stark contrast to his own chaotic energy. But now, after everything, it felt strangely, deeply comforting. It was an anchor in a storm he hadn't even realized he was still weathering. Mo Ziyuan scowled, clearly defeated but too proud to admit it. He muttered, "Fine, do whatever you want. Just don't bring any more trouble onto us." With that they retreated, a disorganized huddle of shadows and muttering voices, stumbling over each other in their haste to get away. Their footsteps and complaints gradually faded down the hall until silence, thick and heavy, returned to settle over the corridor. Lan Wangji remained perfectly still, his posture unwavering. He listened intently, waiting until he was absolutely certain the corridor was empty and they were truly alone again. Only then did he finally lower his arm from its protective position, the barrier between Wei Ying and the world dissolving. Wei Ying let out a soft breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The tension left his shoulders in a rush. A A small, wry smile played on his lips. They really don't like Mo Zhuanyu, huh? The name felt foreign on his tongue, a costume he was still getting used to wearing. Lan Wangji turned his head slightly, his gaze finally resting on him. His expression was serious, his golden eyes clear and direct, as he responded without a moment's hesitation. You are not him. The words were simple, a plain statement of fact, but they hit Wei Ying with unexpected force. His smile flickered soft, fleeting, and unexpectedly touched. He hadn't known how much he needed to hear that, to be seen for who he truly was, even in this borrowed body. He looked at the man before him, the man who had recognized him when no one else had, the man who stood by him without question. A sense of daring, a familiar spark of mischief mixed with genuine curiosity, rose within him. He held Lan Wangji's gaze and asked softly, his voice a little unsteady, "No? Then who am I, Lanzan?" Lan Wangji met his eyes without wavering, his own gaze intense, holding a universe of unspoken history within it. There was no hesitation, no doubt, only a profound and absolute certainty that seemed to resonate through the very air between them. Wei Ying.